Good morning. Well, another night in a Walmart, which is fine, actually. I'm very grateful that these Walmarts are tolerant of this. The only difference tonight, last night, was that I don't have the coach. No, I've driven up to Clinton, Massachusetts to go to a funeral. That's the black jacket. And I thought I wouldn't bring the house up with me. And I tried to couch surf, but I couldn't find anything. I even tried Airbnb, couldn't find anything. And I didn't want to pay $180 for a motel. So I've never actually slept in the truck before. And I can't say it was comfortable, but I did sleep. So there you go. And I'm refreshed enough to go to a funeral anyway.
The funeral was for a gentleman who was a long-time supporter and in some ways a kingpin of certainly the online Land Rover community in North America, and the legacy of his work carries on still. Trucks came from all over, and it was really great to be able to celebrate him with so many of his good friends. I traveled north to spend some time with my daughter for her birthday in Montreal and hung around a couple more days to see some old friends. Interestingly, on my way south again at the border crossing in Vermont, I was denied entry into the United States for reasons that I wasn't a bona fide snowbird, as they called it, and they absolutely insisted that I wasn't to return to the United States. When I pointed out that my coach was in New York, one of the senior fellows there agreed to let me in for 30 days to go and recover the coach. And so that put an end to my southern travels for this year. So here we are, traveling south in Vermont, trying to decide how we're going to use this month.
Hey, Pop, what do you think?
So I picked up the coach in New York and carried on south to North Carolina, where my good friends in the Uwharrie Forest were having another of their Land Rover events in the fall. Unfortunately, on the way down there, I broke a half shaft, which makes life driving a Land Rover towing a trailer a bit complicated. Had to carry on in front-wheel drive. Well, you might remember back a few months where I might have stressed that half shaft just a little bit. Had a fantastic weekend in the woods with my North Carolina friends. Didn't take my truck in the woods at all. After all, it only had front-wheel drive. Well, technically it had three-wheel drive because of my air locker in the rear, but that gets a little complicated. Anyway, after that great fun, it was time to head north again. First stop is Washington, D.C. to spend some quality carousing time with a very good Rover friend who lives there. Okay, it's time for some repairs. On my way back up from North Carolina, I blew an airbag. The reason I blew one of the airbags in the suspension was this little critter right here. See how it's popped out on the corner here? And it started to leak. Quite badly and quite drastically, actually. I was just looking out the front window with the trailer one morning and the truck just went pshh. Too hard to point out. Of course, when I blew the airbag, I didn't have any suspension at all. And with these flat springs, basically the axle went straight from the axle pad, went hard up against the snubber. But unfortunately, my shocks are a little bit extra long, so they bottom out the shock before it hits. And I didn't want to do that too much. And I was 500 miles south of New York, and I had to drive up the I-95 and then into Brooklyn. So basically, it's fallen out now, but this piece of 2x4 was jammed in between the bump stop perch and the bump stop itself, so that I wouldn't bottom out in the shock. I softened the tires just a little bit, which you don't want to do while you're towing a trailer, and I had, well, no suspension. But it was actually not as bad as you might think. Time to fix it. Okay, now I'm excited. My electric mattress pad arrived, 12 volt. I'm going to be warm tonight. It's getting cold. It's turning into fall here in New York, and I can burn a lot of propane to stay warm, or electric mattress pad. While I was in New York, I was very fortunate, and I mean very fortunate, to be able to actually camp out in a cemetery. Yes, a downtown cemetery. These were past clients of mine when I was still doing this sort of development work up in Canada, and they said, if you're ever in the neighborhood, come see us and we can put you up in one of our coach houses. Well, when I turned up at the trailer, they said, well, if you wanted to stay in the trailer in the corner of the cemetery, that's fine with us too. So I had free downtown camping. I still can't believe it. This is a really major cemetery. Anyway, they were very kind to me, and so I thought I'd take you on a quick tour of my campground for the period I was in New York.